Ding Era of Radiance is officially launched, and the Fusion world is selected, Blue Star. Fusion begins. Ding, the world has been merged. The number of people participating in the game this time, 20 billion. Welcome to the Age of Glory. There are stalwart gods, magic, alchemy technology, and everything you can think of here. Everyone will become lords and participate in this race for hegemony. Each lord will randomly get the initial troop nest, from which you can consume resources to recruit troops and form an army. Resources, troops, territories, heroes, and treasures, these are the 5 most important resources of the glorious universe, please explore independently. Life or death, to be a beggar or to wear a crown, to fall into the abyss and become a demon or to ignite a divine fire and become eternal, everything is possible. Li Cha, who had just gotten off work, heard the mechanical sound ringing in his ears, and before he had time to react, he only felt a dizziness coming from the sky and the earth. When he opened his eyes again, a rough hall appeared in front of him. 12 stone pillars scattered evenly support a sunken roof several meters high, surrounded by walls made of grey stones, which look like they have a history of hundreds of years. The long black table in the middle is surrounded by more than 10 chairs, and there is a thick layer of dust on it. If you wipe it with your hands, it can leave conspicuous marks. There is a huge wooden window on the left and right sides without glass barrier, and the dazzling light shines in from the outside, making everything in the house clearly visible. Everything here is full of indescribable exoticism. Only now did Li Cha regain his senses, and when he thought of the information he had just heard, he was horrified. Era of Radiance is the first virtual game jointly developed by the world's top 10 game developers. What's the matter? Does the game merge with the real world? He was in a hurry to go home from get off work today because this game, which has been promoted for several years, will be open for public beta testing tonight. Well now, it really has become a global public beta. But this is too nonsense, right? At this moment, the mechanical sound he had just heard rang in his ear again. Ding, you randomly go to a desert territory and draw the initial troop layer, the mummy pyramid, ordinary 3 stars, dot. Ding, you have become a desert lord, the blood in your body has begun to awaken, and you have acquired a special growth talent, desert lord, current level, sea level, dot. Along with the prompt sound, a property panel appeared in my mind. Richard level 1, 0/100, Identity, Lord of Dusk, City Alignment, Desert Alignment, Lawful Neutral, Territory, City of Dusk, First Class Village, Army Lair, Mummy Pyramid, Ordinary 3 stars, Lord Talent, Desert Lord, Special Growth Talent, Current Level C, you are the master of the desert, you can foresee the arrival of the sandstorm, and you have mastered the ability of sandification. Sandification, Clevel, makes the body sandy, reduces physical damage by 99%, can devour yellow sand to recover the injury, the duration is 10 minutes, and the cooling time is 1 hour. You can give your power to the troops you recruited. After giving it, your subordinates will get a level skill sandification. Sandification, Class D, makes the body sandy, reduces physical attack by 99%, and can devour yellow sand to recover wounds. The duration is 5 minutes and the cooling time is 2 hours. Strategic Treasure, None Introduction, a desert lord with some special abilities, otherwise, nothing extraordinary. Li Cha looked at his attribute panel several times with a subtle expression. Randomly came across an extremely rare growth skill introduced on the official website. This property seems to be pretty good. After taking a few deep breaths, this suppressed the shock in his heart. A bit of complexity appeared in his eyes. I didn't expect to encounter this kind of thing just after working for half a year. The integration of the game and the real world is just nonsense. But fortunately, I have enough to eat by myself and the whole family is not hungry, and I have no worries. As a young man with a big heart and baptized by all kinds of strange knowledge, he quickly adjusted with an unimaginable mentality. How to play is not to play, the real world is just a more realistic game. A bit of excitement appeared in his eyes. He has been longing for the game Era of Radiance for a long time. Since the project was announced, he has been thinking about it all the time. It is almost impossible to know how many times the public information has been read. Now it's a wish come true, but the process is a bit scary. I don't know what his territory is like, and what is that unit's lair. Leaving the hall with full of anticipation. Step out. Outside the hall is a yard, with blue stone paving on the ground, very flat. A grey stone wall more than 3 meters high outside blocked part of the view. Looking at the sky, you can see the endless blue, clear and transparent. Only the air was slightly dry, which made him feel a little uncomfortable between breathing. Li Cha glanced around, and his eyes were quickly attracted by a pyramid building about 3 meters high in the corner of the front yard. The appearance of the pyramid is rough, as if it was formed after being beaten by the wind for countless years, vicissitudes and simplicity. When he stepped forward and took a closer look, the attributes of this building appeared directly in his mind. The Mummy Pyramid level, ordinary 3 stars recruitable troops, Mummy, normal 3 stars, number of recruits, 14 weekly production, 7 recruitment conditions, 4 gold coins, UU reading www.uugonshu.com 4 units of wood, 4 units of stone introduction, an ordinary desert troop lair. This is the troop lair? Li Cha was very interested. Just when he thought that the properties of the pyramid were like this, suddenly a line of translucent text appeared at the bottom of the properties panel. The black gold system starts, startup is successful. Mummy Pyramid, normal 3 STAR, consuming 10 ordinary desert camp troops can upgrade it to elite 3 STAR. Li Cha was shocked, his eyes widened sharply. Black gold system? Isn't this the system in a single-player game he played before? That game was independently developed by a friend of his, and asked him to help him try it out. However, because of the difficulty of the game, after he complained a few times, the other party specially made this system for him. The function of this system is very simple, that is, it can strengthen various things without an upper limit. Actually activated in this world? There was a strong excitement inside. He has read the information on the game Era of Radiance countless times on the official website. The troop lair is the most important thing in the game, it is special and cannot be upgraded. If you want to get a powerful troop nest, you can only attack the troop gathering points in the wild, and rebuild it after you get the troop nest. But now, he can directly consume resources to increase the level of the troop lair. Is this reasonable? It's just too reasonable. Just when Richard was excited to study the black gold system, the sound of the system machinery sounded again in his ears. Ding, the Lord Forum has been opened, please check it yourself. Lord Forum? It's really like playing a game. When Li Cha thought about it, a new panel appeared in his mind. There are 3 large plates on it. Forum chat, trading market, territory ranking. At present, only the forum chat and the trading market are lit, the territory ranking is grey, and it cannot be opened yet. Li Cha first opened the forum chat, he wanted to know what happened. Fuck the top 10 game makers, you bastards. Has it been premeditated for a long time? Why is our world integrated with a game? Who can explain why? Science is dead, I have time to burn paper. I want to call the police, I want to complain, I want to scold my mother. I randomly came to an orc territory. The first unit's lair was his mother's orc hard labor. Fuck, this thing can't do anything except work, but there is a pack of wolves outside my territory. Ha ha ha, my troop's nest is the Griffin, the elite 1 star. Who is going to save me? There is a bear outside my territory. If the other party rushes in, my weak chickens will not be able to stop it. Who knows how to get home? My home is in Liujiang City. There are 20 sweets. Whoever can send me back, I'm willing to give him 10 sweets. This must be a prank, right? I don't want to come to this ghost place. You idiots, still want to go back? It's the power of God to let people in the whole world pass through. If I can pass through this world, I will uphold my destiny and become the protagonist of the world. Just wait, when I become a god, I will send you back. Please help, how can I get resources? My troops are only half recruited, and they can't be recruited. The posts in the chat channel are almost refreshed by tens of thousands at a time, scattered here and there, and everything is said. Some people are at a loss, and many people keep asking for help with the idea of being able to go back. There are also some big-hearted ones who are already eager to try, ready to explore the world. After Li Cha watched it for a long time, the complicated mood gradually eased. With so many people, he is not alone. After thinking about it, he opened the trading market. Unexpectedly, he originally thought that there would be nothing, but it was dazzling, and there were all kinds of materials. Head of the beast sold for 10 GP. Bloody fangs sold for 5 units of stone. Special ore sold for 8 units of wood. It's only been 10 minutes. I don't know how players can get so many strange things in the beginning. However, the most important thing here is the exchange of various resources. 10 coins sold for 10 units of wood. 10 units of wood sells for 10 units of stone. 10 units of stone sells for 10 units of iron ore. According to the official website of Era of Radiance, resources are divided into common resources and rare resources, which are mainly used to recruit troops and build various buildings. Common resources: gold coins, stone, wood, iron ore. Rare resources: gems, sulfur, mercury, crystals. Different troops require different resources to recruit. Low-level arms can be recruited with only ordinary resources, and high-level arms must use rare resources, and the same is true for buildings. Li Cha glanced at his attribute panel, and the resource column at the bottom was displayed. Gold coins, 2000 timber, 2000 units stone, 2000 units iron ore, 2000 units. As for the 4 rare resources, they are all 0. Obviously, these are the basic resources given by the system. He thought about it. The mummy pyramid can recruit 14 mummies, and it only takes 12 units of resources to recruit one. After all, he can call most of the resources. However, with the black gold system in place, direct recruitment is too wasteful. Upgrade the ordinary 3 STAR mummy pyramid to the elite 3 STAR and then recruit it. It must be countless times stronger than the ordinary 3 STAR. Immediately searched the trading market column. The core of the troop lair. While searching, a piece of information came to mind. The materials purchased in the trading market will be directly stored in the 10 cubic meters of space given by the system. After Li Cha understood it, he continued to check. Everyone's start is random, so there are many lucky guys. Some of them were randomly assigned to elite level troop nests, while others got 1 or more cores of troop nests. Although the proportion of these people is low, based on the huge database of 20 billion, even if it is 1/10,000, there are tens of millions. Among them, some people choose to store the core of the troop nest for their own use, but some plan to exchange them for resources. But at the beginning, the price is a bit confusing. A few thousand high, and a few hundred units of resources can be bought. After spending a little time, Richard screened out the cores of the desert camp's troop nests and found the right ones to buy directly. Are you spending 400 units of wood to buy the core of the desert rat's troop lair? Would you like to spend 500 gold coins to buy the core of the desert lizardman's lair? Whether Li Cha was in a good mood when he looked at the core of the troop's nest that he kept in his pocket. The 10 total troop nests cost him 4,000 units of resources. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Under his deliberate control, 1,000 units of gold coins, wood, stone, and iron ore were left. Li Cha's thoughts moved, and the 10 newly purchased troop nests appeared in his hands. Thumb-sized, crystal clear, like pure crystal. Pick up one at random. Desert Viper Den rank, normal 1-star building requirements, 200 gold coins, 200 units of stone, 200 units of wood. Introduction. After construction, you can recruit a common 1 star unit Desert Viper. It doesn't take a lot of resources to build a troop nest. Why do so many people sell the troop nest? Didn't they explode in the early stage? While he was thinking, the black gold system once again displayed a prompt. Mummy Pyramid, ordinary 3 star, consuming 10. Ordinary desert camp troops nest cores can upgrade it to elite 3 star, the conditions are met, whether to upgrade. Li Cha retracted his rambling thoughts, and chose to confirm with anticipation and excitement. The next second, the 10 troop nests in his hand turned into a white streamer and poured into the pyramid in front of him. Kaka followed by a crisp sound. The 3-meter-high pyramid rises as quickly as bamboo shoots. It stopped after reaching 4 meters. Update success. Mummy Pyramid, Elite 3 stars, consuming 10 Elite Desert Faction Lair cores can raise it to Rare 1 star. Note 1, 10 ordinary nest cores can be combined into 1 Elite level. Note 2, the level has been upgraded, and the unit's nest can be upgraded again after 7 days of cooling. After the conspicuous reminder, the black gold system returned to silence. Richard laughed. Mood instantly became happy. However, the demand for the next upgrade will be higher, and a full 10 elite level troop nests are needed. It is 100 pieces synthesized with ordinary level nest cores. After reading the prompt again, when he saw the inconspicuous note 2, the corner of Li Cha's mouth twitched. I almost forgot about this. When that guy got the black and gold system, in order to make me not pass the level so quickly, he specially added a cooling time. But this is not a big deal, just train a few more troops. He suddenly wanted to thank the friend who developed the game, but as long as your skills were a little better, I wouldn't be able to get this plugin. Open the Properties panel of the Mummy Pyramid. Great Pyramid Rank, Elite 3 stars. Recruitable troops, Bandage Mummy, Elite 3 star, Number of recruits, 14. Production per week, 7. Recruitment conditions, 40 gold coins, 40 units of wood, 40 units of stone. Introduction, an ordinary desert troop lair. After the upgrade, the resources required for recruitment have increased a lot. Before 12 units of resource gold could recruit a mummy, now it takes 120 units. But it's worth the price. This wave of blood earned. Li Cha smiled brightly. I wonder how strong the bandage mummy of Elite 3 stars will be? At the moment, there is no ambiguity, and he directly chose to recruit all. 14 bandaged mummies cost 560 gold, 560 wood, and 560 stone. After the resources on the attribute panel plummeted a lot, the pyramid emitted a grey light, and the appearance became hazy. As if the night is covering the earth, the sky will be dark. Kaka. The sound of stone breaking sounded from the haze. Sand. A white bandaged arm emerges from the pyramid. The mummy climbed out of the pyramid in front of Richard. One after another. 14 mummies appeared in front of him in the same way. Li Cha's eyes widened. Isn't this way of appearing a little too cool? Fortunately, you are not crawling on TV. After the bandage mummy appeared, it was not afraid of the sun. Their images are more heart-wrenching than those in film and television works. His whole body was tightly wrapped with white bandages, even his face, with only a pair of empty eye sockets showing no eyeballs. The 2 withered palms were like dry branches, and the nails were sharp enough to tear through the armor. His body exuded an ancient and decadent aura, as if he had just climbed out of the coffin. Ordinary people feel fear even if they look at it. Li Cha nodded with satisfaction. Niang Bao likes the cute austere girl, and a real man should hate mummies. Open the Properties panel. Bandage Mummy Level, Level 1 Potential, Elite 3 stars. Skill, Death's Body, level, no fear of pain, no fear of death, immune to poison and plague. Corpse Bandage, level, reduces physical damage by 30%, the bandage comes with plague, the infected person will fall into a weak state, all attributes will be reduced by 20%, if not treated, will gradually die. Claw tier, level, the sharpness of the fingers is increased by 30%, and the firmness is increased by 30%. Racial talent, when fighting in the desert, stamina and injury recovery speed are increased by 50%. Bound mummy, when the number of mummies is greater than 10, the power of all mummies increases by 10%, when the number of mummies is greater than 30, the strength is increased by 20%, when the number of mummies is greater than 50, the strength is increased by 30%, the plague infection rate is increased by 30%, and the negative effects caused by it are increased by 30%. Introduction: if you use their bandages to hang yourself, you will eventually die from the plague. Although there are no specific attributes such as strength and physique, it can be seen that the attributes are not bad. Li Cha nodded slightly. Besides, it is also an Elite 3 STAR unit. After thinking for a while, he opened his property panel and looked down. Lord Talent, Desert Lord, Special Growth Talent, Current Level C, you are the master of the desert, you can foresee the arrival of the sandstorm, and you have mastered the ability of sandification, which can be given to your subordinates permanently. Your subordinates will get the level skill sandification. This is his special growth skill, which is currently crank. His luck is no worse than those players who have directly obtained elite or even higher level troop nests. He looked at the mummy in front of him. Slowly stretched out his right hand. In an instant, the palm radiated a light like yellow sand. 14 mummies were shrouded inside. Ding, with your blessing, 14 bandaged mummies have acquired a new skill, sandification, D grade. Sandification, level, makes the body sandy, reduces physical damage by 99%, can devour yellow sand to recover the injury, the duration is 5 minutes, and the cooling time is 2 hours. Richard was happy. Immune to 99% physical damage, and can devour yellow sand to recover damage. Isn't this skill just invincible? And since he is in the desert, aren't these bandaged mummies going to be invincible? And more importantly, he can grant the desertification skill to his subordinates without limit. In the future, his arms will naturally have one more skill than the arms of other lords. And as the level of growth talent continues to increase, the skills that can be bestowed in the future will also be enhanced. The potential is infinite. After Li Cha calmed down his excitement, he looked at the 14 mummies in front of him, whose bodies were wrapped in bandages, with only empty eye sockets exposed. Waved his hand. Letting them follow, he took the lead out of the Lord's mansion, which was protected by a wall. The door in the middle is open. Li Cha stepped out. The next moment, his expression was startled. At the entrance of the Lord's mansion, there were hundreds of residents with nervous expressions. These residents were wearing shabby clothes made of coarse cloth, their eyes were dodging, and their expressions were very cautious. After seeing him, everyone's breathing slowed down. And when the mummy appeared, many people panicked even more, grabbed the hem of their clothes tightly, lowered their heads abruptly, and dared not look directly in front of them. In the depressed atmosphere, an old man with grey hair and a white robe staggered out of the crowd. Nervously, he came to Li Cha and bowed respectfully to the ground. Shout out loud! Lord, Lord, your humble people welcome you. It is an extremely strange language, and Richard can be sure that he has never heard it in his more than 20 years of life. When he was in doubt, a stream of information poured into his mind, and countless information was absorbed by him with pronunciation, enunciation, and the meaning of words. Continental lingua franca. At this time, he understood what the other party said. Li Cha was in a trance, he mastered a new language in an instant. This is a novice benefit? Under the leadership of the old man, the crowd in the back suddenly woke up and hurriedly knelt to the ground, as if they were afraid of being late. Welcome, my lord. The voice fluctuated, with the same fear of a cat seeing a mouse. Just as Li Cha was about to speak, a system prompt came from his ear. Ding, you have officially taken over the territory, and you can view the territory panel freely. Li Cha's eyes lit up and immediately opened the territory panel. City of Twilight Level, a first-level village, 2,000 units of gold, stone, wood, and iron ore required for upgrade, building, Junior Lord's Mansion, only, Junior Resident Residence, 10, Junior Blacksmith Shop, 1, Junior Barracks, 1, Special Building, none empty space, 10 squares resident, human, 100 people, resources, gold coins, 1,440, wood, 1,440 units, stone, 1,440 units, iron ore, 2,000 units, rare resources, mercury, 0, brimstone, 0, crystal, 0, gem, 0, occupied. Resource points, none territory attribute, the land of yellow sand, under the protection of Lord Richard, the residents of Dusk City will not get lost in the desert, and the physical consumption in the desert will be reduced by 30%. Army Lair, Great Pyramid, Elite 3 STAR, Army, Bandage Mummy, Elite 3 Stars, 14, Hero, None Introduction, an extremely small territory, perhaps the sneeze of a powerful creature can destroy it. The property panel of the territory shows everything. Although there are not many things, the territorial attributes look good. Residents will not get lost in the desert, and they can also reduce physical consumption by 30%, which is quite practical. The residents who were kneeling on the ground watched Li Cha remain silent for a long time, and cold sweat broke out on their foreheads. The unease inside grew stronger. Lord! The leader, who was kneeling at the front with a slightly weak tone, half raised his head and let out a light exclamation. His tone was uneasy. Only then did Li Cha come back to his senses, coughed lightly, and said aloud in the common Chinese language he had just mastered. "Get up, my people! This is the City of Dusk, my territory and the home of each of you, so there is no need to be so nervous." Hearing this, the old man's eyes were instantly relieved, and then he bowed sincerely to him before standing up. The other residents who got up looked at Richard with worry, anxiety, and excitement. "The Lord really doesn't recommend us to live here. Are those mummies? The soldiers recruited by the Lord are really majestic. Your Lord is so kind." Looking at the excited crowd below, Li Cha was also a little surprised. He only understood after asking the old man in front of him. It turned out that these people wandered from other places 3 days ago. At that time, the gate of the Lord's mansion was closed and could not be opened. They really had nowhere to go, so they stayed here first. Until an hour ago, they suddenly got the news that the gate of the Lord's mansion was opened. Under the panic in my heart, I came here to wait for the owner of the territory to appear. This is obviously the benefit given to novice lords by Era of Radiance. Population is an important part of a territory, mining resources, building houses, planting food, all need people to do. Without these people, his territory would not be able to function. After the leading old man took a deep breath, he spoke again. "Dear Lord, please forgive our rashness, we beg you to take us in." The crowd below immediately raised their hearts to their throats and looked at Li Cha eagerly, hoping to hear the reply they were looking forward to. Looking at the still uneasy crowd, Li Cha took a step forward, and his dark and deep eyes swept across the crowd. At this moment, under the background of the mummy guard behind him, his aura instantly silenced the arena. After pondering for a while, he spoke loudly. "Don't be nervous, my people. In the name of the Lord of Dusk City, I officially allow you to join my territory and become residents of Dusk City. No matter what job you worked in before, what status you were, or what happened to you, all this has become the past, and I will not pursue your past. From now on, this will be your home, and your only identity is the residents of Dusk City. In the future, your life, work, and everything beautiful will bloom on this land. My people, my name is Richard, remember this name. Eyes firm. As your Lord, no matter how dangerous the outside world is, I will shelter you and protect your safety. Even if the world loses its light one day, I will lead you through the long night. The apprehension and unease of the crowd below were swept away in this firm and provocative tone, and their eyes changed quietly at this moment. Is this their lord? Ding Yu gave a short but charming speech, which won the respect of everyone present, and the progress of leadership comprehension increased by 20%. When Li Cha heard the system prompt, his expression seemed a little subtle. Is this okay? However, he quickly regained his composure and looked at the old man in front of him. Where do you currently live? The other party's wrinkled face seemed to be relieved a lot at this moment, and he said with an excited tone. Lord, we live in the house over there. Said and pointed to the side. Richard turned his head to look. 50 meters away from the Lord's mansion, there were 10 two-story cocky houses lined up. The architectural style is very rough, which is very in line with the characteristics of the desert. Residential residence, occupies one space, level, beginner, upgrade requires 500 units of stone and 500 units of wood, maximum number of people, 10 people characteristics, none introduction, ordinary residential houses, suitable for civilians to live in. There are 10 primary residences, each of which can accommodate 10 people. Yuyukanshu www.yuyuganshu.com just settled these 100 people. Not one fell. Li Cha nodded, and suddenly asked as if he had thought of something. How much food do we have now? These people are living people who need to eat and drink. In a territory, the most important thing should be water and food, let alone a dry and barren desert. Fortunately, the mummy he recruited was a necromancer type and did not need to be fed. The grey-haired old man's face showed a bit of bitterness, and his back, which was still standing just now, was a lot ragged, and he looked even older. Lord, we only have 3 days of food reserves. These are all brought before. Although I have been trying hard to find these days, the desert is not only dangerous, but also can't find food at all. As the leader of the team, the old man had to take on hundreds of people to eat, drink, and dine every day. The heavy pressure made him almost breathless. Li Cha nodded. I will find a solution to this matter. There is a trading market, as long as there are enough resources, there are many ways to get food. So now the most important thing is to find resources. Have you found any resource points around the territory in the past few days? The resources such as wood, stone, etc. are obtained from resource points in the wild. According to the public records of Glorious Era. According to the different reserves, resource points are divided into micro, small, medium, large, and giant. Every resource point will be guarded by field troops. If you want to occupy a resource point, you must first destroy the troops in it. And every once in a while, new resource points will be refreshed around the territory, so you don't have to worry about going out. Lord, when we went out to search for food, we found 3 resource points. One of them is a logging quarry, one is a quarry, and the other seems to be an iron ore, but we dare not approach it, we have no confirmation. Hearing the old man's words, Li Cha immediately lifted his spirits. Resources are at the heart of Shining Era. With resources, you can buy troops' nests, buy food, recruit troops, and upgrade territories. The first task now is to occupy the surrounding resource points, obtain resources, and make the territory stronger as soon as possible. Era of Radiance is not a safe world, all races compete for hegemony, this is the main theme in the future. Not to mention the 20 billion players, there are still powerful aborigines in this world, and even beyond the main plane, there are countless dimension planes. Demons, angels, dragons, titans, there are many of these legendary beings. Is there a map? He asked casually, but he didn't expect that the old man actually took out a map. Although this charcoal-drawn map looks very rudimentary, several key points are marked. Ding, you got a rough map, is it synced to the system map? Oh? And this function? Li Cha was overjoyed. Synchronize. After making the choice, a system map appeared in front of him with most of the area covered by fog. And the points marked on the rough map that the old man gave him appeared on it intact. "Very good, you did a good job. I don't know your name yet," the old man said excitedly. "Dear Lord, Karu is always at your command." Li Cha nodded. The old man knew at a glance that he was someone who was quite prestigious among the hundreds of people. Curiously, she opened the other party's property panel. Karu Level 3 Potential, Class D Skill, Internal Affairs, Level, can handle more efficient territorial affairs, Management, Level, able to better manage subordinates, Persuasion, Class D, speaking can convince others more easily, Racial Talent, can learn the knowledge of other races. Fetters, when in charge of internal affairs, work efficiency is increased by 30%. Introduction, once a powerful hero unit, its strength degenerates after getting old, and it has lost the power of the hero unit. It was only after Richard saw Karu's introduction that he understood. Unexpectedly, the other party was once a hero. Unfortunately, it's old now. But no matter what, at the beginning, this can be considered a good talent. His face became serious, and in front of all the residents, he said sternly, "Karu, in the name of the Lord of Dusk City, I have appointed you as Dusk City Administrative Officer. When I'm away, you are in charge of managing other residents and guarding the safety of Dusk City." Karu was stunned for a moment, then raised his head in disbelief, and the aging body seemed to be young again. The trembling voice said loudly, Lord, thank you for your gift, I will defend your glory with my life." Li Cha nodded. "Let them go away, you can walk around the territory with me. As you wish." After the crowd dispersed, Richard and Karu inspected the city of Dusk under the of the mummy. At present, the buildings in the territory are very rare, and there are only a few types: the Lord's Mansion, the Resident's Residence, the Blacksmith Shop, and the Barracks. Other than that, there are only 10 spaces left. The open space is the basis for building new buildings in the territory. If there is no open space, new buildings cannot be built. The area of each block is 10 meters * 10 meters. Depending on the building, the amount of space occupied varies. Lord's Mansion, 30 spaces, Residential Residence, 1 space, Blacksmith Shop, 4 spaces, Barracks, 20 spaces. When building a building, it must occupy the specified number of spaces to build, because subsequent upgrades will expand outward. If the open space does not meet the requirements, subsequent buildings cannot be upgraded. This is recorded in detail in the Public Information of Era of Radiance. The number of spaces in the territory will increase with the level of the territory. You can also use treasures to expand the area of the territory and increase the number of spaces. The center of Dusk City is the Lord's Mansion, and outside the gate, to the west, there are 10 residential buildings. To the east is the Blacksmith Shop, and behind the Lord's Mansion is the Barracks. The 10 squares of open space are distributed in the Blacksmith Shop area. When Richard came to the Blacksmith Shop with the door open, he found that it was full of dust and had not been used for a long time. Blacksmith Shop, 4 spaces, Level, Beginner, Upgrade requires 1000 units of iron ore, 1000 units of wood, 1000 units of stone. Feature, Forging efficiency increased by 10%. Capacity, minimum 2 people, maximum 10 people. Introduction, an ordinary blacksmith shop, where you can forge agricultural tools or low-level weapons. The upgrade demand of the blacksmith shop is obviously higher than that of the residential house, and it also comes with special attributes. At least 2 people, it should be at least 2 people to make the blacksmith shop operate. Li Cha raised a little curiosity, and looked at the properties of the Lord's Mansion and Barracks. Lord's Mansion, 30 spaces, Level, Beginner, Upgrade requires 2000 units of gold, stone, wood, and iron ore. Characteristics, Efficiency, 10% increase in efficiency when working in the mansion, Stamina recovery, 20% increase in stamina recovery speed, capacity, 30 people introduction, the core building of the territory has special power. Li Cha was a little surprised. He didn't expect the Lord's mansion to have two features, and they were both very practical. With some anticipation, he looked at the barracks. Barracks, 20 spaces, level, beginner, 1,500 units of gold, stone, wood, and iron ore are required to upgrade. Characteristic, training, arms have a very small chance to comprehend Flavel skills in this training. Strengthen the body, increase the exercise effect by 10%, which can slightly improve the physical fitness. Capacity 100 people introduction, ordinary barracks. Yes, except for residential buildings, other buildings have corresponding characteristics. However, these buildings have a lot of resources to upgrade. After recruiting 14 mummies, the resources in his hands were reduced from 4,000 to more than 2,000. I am afraid that there will be no way to upgrade in a short time. Karu, you immediately go and screen out the blacksmiths and tailors among the residents who have special skills. I will be of great use. When new residents join in the future, you must do similar statistics. You are solely responsible for this. Karu, who was following behind, immediately nodded respectfully. As you wish, Lord. After explaining a few more words, Richard asked Karu to leave. He thought about it and opened the forum again. I don't know how other people's progress is going for this hour. The moment he entered the chat channel, he seemed to have returned to the modern age. All of them were speeches by sand sculpture players. Damn it, there are 300 refugees from outside my territory. Mad, all of them are like beggars. They have to rely on me. How can I have food for them? I can't afford them at all. Ha ha ha, I recruited a hero from the residents. She's still a cute girl, so cool. I will definitely study the stockings in the future, and cultivate an army of cute girls with high heels and stockings. How can I get food? My territory is running out of food, and I can only last for 2 days. Is it still time to go farming now? Everyone, please don't leave the territory. I am also getting tired of it. The territory has a 1-month protection period. If you leave the territory, the protection period will drop to 7 days. Mad, this garbage game is ruining my life. I don't believe that the government will leave us alone. Anyway, there is a protection period, so I won't go out this month if I'm beaten to death. I'm going to vomit, the monsters outside are so powerful. My 10 human swordsmen were wiped out by one of his mother's ogres, it's really a tin bucket. I have all the resources to buy food, and there is nothing to recruit new ones. Troops, what should I do now? Why are the orcs so edible? The food in my warehouse has been drained in one meal. Mother, where can I get so much food to feed them? Ha ha ha, it's still cool for the undead, you don't need to think about food at all, but it's just a bit embarrassing to look at the bone scum all the time, and you can't raise a maid, bad luck. Ha ha ha, there are so many little elf brothers, I'm going to die. I won't go back if I kill them. This queen wants all the elf brothers in the harem. I want to sleep 10 a day. Many lord players on the forum have come out of the initial bewilderment and began to discuss how to develop the territory. There are some big-hearted ones who are ready to keep the harem. But they also encountered various problems. The most common complaints are lack of food and insecurity outside the territory. After watching it for about 10 minutes, Li Cha came to a conclusion. It seems that food problems are a common problem, not unique to him. And the protection time provided by the system mentioned by many people also made him ponder. There is a 1-month safety period for not stepping out of the territory, and the safety period for stepping out of the territory will drop to 7 days. Is it the same for his territory? If everyone is the same, then this choice given by the system may become a watershed. After getting a lot of useful information, Richard closed the forum. Internet is too time-consuming. Without hesitation, he brought 14 mummies to the edge of Dusk City. A first-class village. The area is not large, there is no city wall outside, and it can lead to the desert everywhere. It was noon at this time. Looking into the distance, the yellow sand was like a golden sand under the sunlight. The heat wave is rolling in. Richard lowered his head and glanced at it. The ground of the territory was paved with stones, and there was yellow sand everywhere outside a step away. The demarcation line is very clear, and it seems that there is a special rule separating the two sides. After careful observation, he found that there was a transparent shield in front of the dividing line. The shield was like an upside-down bowl, protecting the city of dusk. Li Cha understood. This is the shield of protection mentioned on the forum. Extend his right hand. The moment it touched the shield, the system prompt sounded. Ding, are you leaving the city of dusk? The guardian shield will provide protection for 1 month. After leaving, the guardian shield will shatter after a week. Note, the guardian shield is a product of the rules and cannot be broken. If you are afraid of death and stay in the territory, you can stay for a whole month without worrying about safety. If you leave now, the time will be shortened to 7 days. I have to say, this really hit the hearts of many people. But it's also a huge trap. How precious is the development time in the early stage? Enjoying a month of safe time here is not equivalent to wasting a month. Without hesitation, he stepped out of the shield. There is no feeling when passing through, as if the shield does not exist. Li Cha ignored the others and thought to himself while looking at the resource points marked on the system map. With the information provided by Karu, the resource points around the territory can be occupied. From the map, these resource points are only 20 minutes away from Dusk City at the farthest. The lumber mill is on the west side of Dusk City, less than 10 minutes away. Shishan is in the northwest, about 15 minutes. The suspected iron ore resource point is in the northeast, about 20 minutes away. Start with the nearest lumber mill. After carefully comparing the system map, Li Cha clarified the action target. Shasha the leather boots stepped into the yellow sand, and the fine sand flowed from the instep, with a bit of heat. He lifted his foot, and the sand fell again and again, returning to the yellow sand, leaving only irregular footprints on the spot. The Dusk City is flat within a kilometer, and undulating sand dunes beyond a kilometer. The vast yellow sand, with no boundaries at a glance, is simple and desolate. The hot wind mixed with a little fine sand blew on the face, making the mouth dry. The desert has always been a symbol of forbidden life in the hearts of ordinary people. However, Richard has the talent of being a desert lord. Walking in the desert is not stressful at all, on the contrary, he feels quite relaxed. It seemed like the fish had returned to the water. Not to mention mummies. Racial talent increases stamina and injury recovery speed by 50% in the desert. This place of death, which is difficult for outsiders to enter, is their home ground. Richard asked 4 mummies to explore the way ahead, and he moved forward under the protection of 10 mummies. But just after stepping out of the kilometer range to the sand dunes, the mummy in front became excited. He turned his head and gestured to Li Cha. Interestingly, the mummy's mouth was sealed and she couldn't speak. Information can only be communicated through the body. Seeing this, Li Cha did not delay, and immediately climbed up the sand dunes with 10 mummies. Climbing high and looking into the distance, about 400 or 500 meters away, a tree-lined forest grows in the sand. The shadows of the trees swayed, the indescribable greenness. The vibrant scene was in stark contrast to the desolation of the surrounding desert. And through the branches, you can faintly see some wooden buildings inside. Sawmill rank, small reserves, 20,000 units maximum output, 2,100 units per week capacity, minimum 2 people, 10 people fully loaded. Introduction, a common resource point, which can be used to build a small logging farm after being occupied. Small lumber mills? 20,000 units of reserves? 2,100 units per week? Li Cha narrowed his eyes slightly. In this way, as long as you occupy this logging farm, you can get 300 units of wood every day. He immediately became interested and accelerated forward with the mummy. But when the group of them approached the logging field, they suddenly heard a roar of infiltrating people. Swipe immediately afterward, 20 or 30 figures rushed out of the 5 or 6 meter high woods. Richard stopped and looked intently. I saw that these suddenly appeared monsters had heads as savage as jackals, and their eyes glowed with penetrating green light. The body has thick grey hair and is as tough as armor. He arched his back, propped one hand on the ground, and his sharp claws left scratches on the ground. It also uses both hands when running forward. Swipn's mouth opened wide, revealing sharp canine teeth, and the continuous secretion of saliva pulled out a long silk thread in the air. Desert Knoll level 1 potential, normal 2 stars skill, brutal, frank. Once an attack is launched, the anger will consume the sanity and become fearless until the enemy is killed. Racial talent, has a keen sense of smell. Bound Knolls, if the number of Knolls is greater than 10, all strengths will be increased by 10%, when the number is greater than 20, the strength is increased by 20%, activated, introduction, be careful with your throat. The number of these Knolls that suddenly appeared exceeded 30, and they also activated the bond that increased their strength by 20%. Vicious Aura. When Li Cha saw this scene, not only was he not afraid, but he became very excited. His mummy is elite level. Attack. With a wave of his hand, 14 bandaged mummies rushed forward. The mummy's throat let out a penetrating roar, and the open claws could tear through steel, with a tyrannical aura. Their running speed did not slow down because they were covered in bandages. In just a few breaths, the mummy fought with more than 30 Knolls. Roar a Knoll swooped up and bit the mummy, trying to put an end to the undead that terrified them. The mummy slammed forward with the thick bandaged arm to block, and hit the jackal's head. The Knoll whimpered and took a few steps back and almost fell to the ground. But this time, the animal nature in the blood was completely stimulated, and after a low roar, he rushed forward quickly, and the huge open mouth bit directly on the mummy's arm. Then his head swayed wildly, trying to tear the mummy in front of him with sharp teeth. The body of death, A-class, no fear of pain, no fear of death, immune to poison and plague. Mummies can't feel pain and fear at all. When the Knoll was biting, the 5 sharp fingers that could tear through steel directly pierced into the Knoll's abdomen. Claw tier, A-level, the sharpness of the fingers is increased by 30%, and the firmness is increased by 30%. Blood spurts. The other party's blood stained the bandage on its arm. The Knoll let out a wailing sound, and the skin on his body turned a faint blue at the same time in the severe pain. At the same time, the power quickly faded away. Corpse bandage, A-level, reduces physical damage by 30%, the bandage comes with plague, the infected person will fall into a weak state, all attributes will be reduced by 20%, if not treated, will gradually die. After the mummy's finger stabbed the opponent, instead of stopping, she pulled hard. The belly of the Knoll seemed to be slashed by a razor, like the zipper of a coat being pulled open. Bloody. In the severe pain, the brutal Knoll still did not give up the attack. The 2 sharp claws are still fiercely attacking the mummy. The smell of the frenzied fighting here immediately caught the attention of the surrounding Knolls. The eyes of those running monsters suddenly turned a little scarlet, and they slammed towards the mummy. The mummy was dragged by the Knoll, and before it had time to dodge, she was directly drowned by 7 or 8 Knolls. The bandages on his body were constantly torn apart, revealing his shriveled body in some places. But in this mortal situation, these attacking Knolls screamed fiercely, their bodies suddenly turned blue, and their strength dropped rapidly. Retreat like an electric shock. The mummy who was besieged just now seemed to be flowing like yellow sand. And the sharp claws of the Knoll that was attacking it seemed to pierce the sand. Reading www.yuyuganshu.com. He could only feel a slight blockage and penetrated the opponent's body. After the claws left, the mummy's body returned to its original shape. Not only did they fail to inflict any damage to them, but these gnolls who attacked were infected with the plague, and their physical strength rapidly weakened. Sandification, level, makes the body sandy, reduces physical damage by 99%, can devour yellow sand to recover injuries, duration 5 minutes, cooldown time 2 hours. With no magic damage, within 5 minutes, a mummy standing on the sand is an immortal existence. The sharp 5 fingers solidified in the sand, tearing the 2 gnolls who were still biting him unwillingly on the spot. After this scene appeared, the fate of these gnolls was doomed. Although gnolls fight fiercely, mummies are even more domineering. Even if you don't use sandification, mummy can press the opponent with powerful force to fight. After using sandification, mummy seems to be invincible. One after another gnoll was pierced by a mummy, pierced in the heart and slit his throat. The battle lasted only a minute or two before it was over. When the last gnoll fell, the system upgrade sounded. Ding! The army you led wiped out a group of gnolls and won a mini battle. You gained 34 experience points. Li Cha, who was supervising the battle at the rear, was in a good mood. This is the combat power of elite level units. In the face of an enemy that is several times your own, it slaughtered without the slightest damage. He glanced at his level. Level 1, 34/100, the upgrade progress has risen a lot with the naked eye. The bigger gain is that after annihilating the gnoll, he can occupy this resource point. After Richard passed his excitement, he frowned slightly when he saw the corpses of gnolls scattered all over the floor. Although the gnoll is a wild monster, the blood and limbs dyed with red and yellow sand are still very visually and psychologically impactful. It was the first time he had seen such a penetrating scene. But he didn't dodge it, he gritted his teeth and walked past the blood and corpses. This world, sooner or later, will encounter larger-scale conflicts. If he doesn't get used to it as soon as possible, no one will shelter him from the wind and rain. One step at a time, after stepping out of the area, Li Cha's face was not good looking, but his body was inexplicably a bit more special. Ding! Are you occupying the resource point lumberyard, small? Take a deep breath and nod. Confirm. The occupation is successful, and you have obtained a small resource point, where you can send lumberjacks to cut wood. Hearing the system prompt, Li Cha, whose face was slightly pale, felt a little better. A red-stained mummy with a bandage entered. Turning his head and looking around, trees 5 or 6 meters high covered the sky, and the air suddenly cooled down. In the central area, 7 or 8 felled trees are scattered in a mess. There is also a small wooden hut next to it. When you open the door, you can see a dozen rusted axes inside. It's not bad. Although I can see that it has not been used for a long time, as long as I take over, I can start production immediately. There are many types of resource points in Era of Radiance, some of which are primitive, such as a forest, which requires the construction of a logging farm. However, this type of resource is usually only for large resource points, and small resource points can be directly mined. This seems to be considered by those designers for the novice. Now it has saved Richard a lot of trouble. After strolling around the logging farm and finding nothing else, he didn't stay, nor was he in a hurry to go back and let someone come to cut the wood. Take 14 mummies and head directly to the resource point in the southeast. These 2 resource points are very close, and after crossing the 2 dunes, you can see an area of rubble. Quarry level, miniature reserve, 10,000 units maximum output, 1,400 units per week capacity, minimum 2 people, 7 people when fully loaded. Introduction, an ordinary resource point that can be mined for stone after occupation. Compared with the small logging quarry, the properties of the micro quarry have decreased in all aspects. 1,400 units are produced per week, 200 units per day. With the lumber mill, that's 500 units per day. Li Cha felt a little better again. Not bad, good harvest. After gaining the experience of the knoll, he was not in a hurry to approach, and let the 4 mummies continue to explore the way. Sure enough, after the mummy approached the quarry, there was a sound of breaking through the air. More than 20 stones flew out of the quarry. Bang! The mummy couldn't dodge in time and was hit directly. But the power of those stones is really small. The mummy carried a wave of damage. Ding! Your army is attacked by a group of unknown enemies. The corner of Li Cha's mouth twitched. Throwing rocks? Isn't it a little funny? All the mummies attack. If the enemy is not strong, leave a few alive. Throwing stones at people, and it is a field unit guarding micro-resource points. Li Cha really couldn't imagine how powerful the opponent was. 2 mummies were left to guard him, and all the others were sent out. A distance of tens of meters is over in the blink of an eye. The power of the stone thrown by the enemy is small, and hitting the mummy on the undead army that ignores pain is even more like nothing. What? After the mummy rushed into the quarry, there was a scream of fear, and it didn't take long for it to recover. Ding! The army you led defeated a group of long-armed hard workers and won a mini-battle. You gain 30 experience points. Level 1, 64/100, Richard nodded with satisfaction. As long as he fought again, he would be able to level up. Good harvest. Walked towards the quarry. When they came to the center, a group of ugly beings with fearful faces squatted tremblingly on the ground. There were 7 or 8 corpses lying around. The mummy stood beside him indifferently. These ugly beings have 4 canine teeth protruding from their lips up and down the corners of their mouths, and their faces are very hideous. The body shape is almost the same as that of ordinary humans, but with a pair of solid long arms that go above the knees, it looks quite sturdy. Long arm drudge level 1 potential, normal 1-star skill, endurance, A level, can withstand extremely difficult working conditions, racial talent, when food is sufficient, physical strength can be quickly recovered. Bound peer, when the number of long arm peons is greater than 10, the recovery speed of stamina is increased by 20%, when the number of long arm peons is greater than 20, the stamina recovery speed is increased by 40%, activated. Introduction, Master, don't hit me, I'll go to work right away. Good guy. And there is such a strange kind of troops? No wonder it's called hard labor, these guys' talents are simply too suitable for work. After Li Cha appeared, he immediately attracted the attention of the hard workers. They woke up when they saw the respectful gesture of the mummy. Immediately turned around and knelt down toward him, put his head on the ground, and shouted excitedly. Great Lord, we are willing to surrender to you, don't kill us. Ding! A group of long-armed hard workers admire your strength after the defeat and want to take refuge in you, do you accept it? Is it that simple? Richard was happy. These guys are really suitable to be squeezed, they are simply capitalist welfare. Accept. You got 30 long-armed drudges. Ding! Are you occupying the quarry? Occupy. You got a miniature quarry, and you can send miners to mine. With a wave of his hand, Li Cha pointed to the first long-armed hard worker to kneel and surrender. I have appointed you as the head of the quarry, in charge of the production of the quarry, at the same time, assign 6 hard workers to you, and you have the right to manage other hard workers. The long-armed hard worker was overjoyed and knelt down suddenly. Great Master, I will definitely produce more ore for you. Ding! You used your language to inspire a long-armed hard worker, and the minions under his jurisdiction increased the efficiency of mining ore by 20%, and the duration was 3 days. Is this also possible? Li Cha was overjoyed. Good guy, can you send someone to encourage you and paint a pie every once in a while in the future? After exploring the quarry and finding nothing else, Li Cha left 7 hard workers to mine the stone. At the same time, he appointed a hard worker as the head of the logging farm and led the other 9 people to work at the logging farm that was just occupied by the treasure. The appointed peons are also extremely excited, and they also have the feature of increasing their efficiency by 20%. After such a circle, not only the 2 resource points occupied, but also the workers were found. And he didn't pay anything, and there were 13 extra long-armed hard workers in his hands. These gains made Richard full of energy. But after thinking about it, I was a little worried. Although hard labor is easy to use, it has 30 more mouths. There are only 3 days of food left to shrink again. He just opened the trading market and took a look. There is no food for sale in UU reading www.uugonshu.com. There are so few pieces, but the prices are extremely outrageous, and they are sold out very quickly. It is difficult to buy them. It seems that logistics will become a key point restricting the development of the territory in the future. Li Cha glanced at the mummies beside him with a lingering fear. Fortunately, they didn't need to consume food, otherwise they would really die. The resource point in the northeast is a little further away. It took about half an hour to get there from the quarry. The speed of the 13 peons was too slow, dragging down the marching speed. These guys have a hard time walking in the sand. After turning over a low sand dune, Li Cha followed the markings on the map, and there were traces of a third resource point in his sight. Iron ore. The desert around the iron ore has turned into a dry and hard ground, and those oil-black ores are piled up together and are very conspicuous. Iron ore class, small reserve, 20,000 units maximum output, 2,100 units per week capacity minimum 5 people, maximum 10 people introduction. For ordinary iron ore, miners can be dispatched to mine ore. With the experience from the first 2 times, Li Cha waved his hand without hesitation. Put 14 mummies on it. At the same time, the remaining 13 hard workers picked up the stones scattered on the ground. This formed a formation with warriors in the front and long-range attack power in the back. Although it is a very crude version. When the bandaged mummy approached the iron ore, there was a harsh sound of breaking through the air. More than 20 arrows pierced through the sky. Law directly penetrated the bandage and pierced into the mummy's body. Ding Yu angered a group of desert thieves. As the mummy of the undead life, the fatal point is in the head. You can't kill them unless you blow their heads. After the 14 mummies were attacked, they let out a frightening growl in their throats, and their speed suddenly increased. Charged into the iron ore with arrows. When Li Cha saw this, he immediately asked the 13 hard workers to keep up, while he waited here. As a lord, there is naturally a lord's way of playing. Sitting in the back and commanding the army to fight is the correct way to open it. It's too stupid to take the lead in the charge. It's a waste of time to be focused by the enemy. There are so many mummies who are stronger than him, and there is no shortage of combat power that he doesn't even have weapons. Although the iron ore was not high, the complex terrain still blocked his sight. Richard did not see the specific situation of the battle. But 14 elite-level mummies and 13 long-armed hard workers attack a small resource point together, and it is not too difficult. After a few minutes, the system upgrade sounded. Ding, the army you led wiped out a group of desert thieves and won a mini-battle. You gained 36 experience points and your level was raised. Afterwards, Li Cha could only feel a warm current rising from all over his body, as comfortable as being soaked in hot water and being kneaded by a technician. He could clearly feel the warmth being absorbed by his muscles and bones. After a while, the warm current disappeared. Li Cha felt that his body was full of unspeakable power, as if one punch could kill a calf. He clenched his fists and made a creaking sound. Is this an upgrade? It's so cool, it's more powerful than a 5,000-hour massage by a technician. Will you occupy the iron mines? Occupy. After Li Cha made the choice, he was in a good mood, stepping on the hard and dry ground and entering the iron ore. The rich blood gradually came to the nostrils, and the deeper it went, the thicker it became. After walking a few steps, a picture of a desert thief with a short crossbow and a dagger stuck in his waist, his face covered with blood, appeared in his pupils and fell into the ore. These desert thieves are full of scars left by the mummy's stubborn claws, and the flesh and blood are rolling, looking quite terrifying. Li Cha frowned slightly, although he still felt a little uncomfortable about it, but compared to when he just hunted down the knoll, his psychological endurance has increased a lot. Step by step into the iron ore center. Seeing Richard's appearance, the mummy and the hard workers immediately surrounded him. Great Master! These desert thieves have all been killed. Your light has enveloped this iron mine. The mummy can't speak, but the long-armed hard worker is happy to show off his exploits in front of his new master. Li Cha nodded slightly, and just as he was about to speak, another long-armed hard worker rushed over from the side excitedly. Master, I found a treasure chest, praise the goddess of luck. Treasure chest? His eyes lit up immediately. In Era of Radiance, hunting wild troops has a chance to obtain various materials and treasures. The treasure chest is one of them, from which various treasures can be opened. Take me there. The hard worker immediately excitedly led the way. Bending around, the hard worker stopped in a narrow stone crevice. Li Cha looked at it intently, and there was a wooden box radiating bronze light placed in it. Wooden box level, 1-star status, unlocked introduction, maybe you can get some junk from it. My dear, this introduction is really welcome. The lowest level of the treasure chest is 1 and the highest is 5 stars. The higher the level, the greater the chance of opening precious treasures. However, from this introduction, it basically eliminates the possibility of opening something good. Also, what could be better for a group of ordinary desert thieves guarding things? Li Cha didn't have any expectations, he stretched out his hand and opened it directly. A flash of bronze light flashed, and then there was a fist-sized pocket sewn with coarse cloth. Ding, you opened a 1-star treasure chest and got a resource bag. Resource bag, there are 500 units of stone in it, and the resource bag will be automatically destroyed after opening. Li Cha was mentally prepared and was not disappointed. And with 500 units of resources, you can buy a troop lair, and this windfall can be counted as a profit. He stretched out his hand and opened it directly, a ray of light flashed, the resource bag shattered into pieces, and there were 500 more stones on his attribute panel. After harvesting, Li Cha glanced at his long-armed hard worker. Can't help but laugh. He pointed to the hard worker who had just discovered the treasure chest. You have done a good job, and you will be rewarded by me if you have done a good job. I appointed you as the person in charge of the iron ore mine, responsible for the mining of the iron ore, and at the same time, responsible for the management of other staff of the iron ore. The promoted hard worker danced and danced with excitement. Ha 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 ha, thank you for your gift, great master, I will definitely work hard for you. Ding, your order has greatly increased the enthusiasm of the long-arm drudge. The subordinates under his jurisdiction will increase the efficiency of ore mining by 20% for 3 days. Richard laughed, these guys are really easy to fool. After confirming that there is nothing else in the iron mine, 10 hard workers were left to mine iron ore. He took the mummy and the last 3 remaining pews to prepare to return to the territory. The weather was too hot at noon, and Li Cha's physical strength dropped a lot. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. She pursed her dry lips. I'm careless, I didn't bring water when I went out. With the special growth talent of a desert lord, his consumption in the desert has been reduced a lot, but even so, his mouth is still dry after this circle. Not to mention the few hard workers, by this time their lips were chapped and bleeding. With a certain desire for water, Li Cha and his party unconsciously quickened their pace. The desert is always vast and dead. It is quite rare to see a few clumps of cacti or a few tenaciously growing stock trees from a distance. But accidents are often just around the corner. Master, there are monsters there. Just after turning over a sand dune, a few hard workers suddenly shouted out in a somewhat frightened tone. Li Cha paused and looked forward. 200 or 300 meters away, near a clump of shuttle trees, more than 20 grey wolves as huge as calves were enjoying the shade. No one can doubt how ferocious these beasts will be once they go mad. Although he didn't get close, the opponent still made him feel a lot of pressure because of his exaggerated body. Desert wolf level, Level 3 Potential, Elite 3 Stars Skill, Kill, Erank, can burst out a powerful force to kill the enemy. Bite, Class E, with sharp teeth, can deal piercing damage. Racial Talent, the action is very agile. Bound Wolf Pack, when the number of desert wolves is greater than 10, the strength is increased by 5%, and the sensitivity is increased by 10%, when the number of desert wild wolves is greater than 20, the strength is increased by 10%, and the sensitivity is increased by 20%, activated. Introduction, OW. Level 3, an Elite 3 STAR field unit. And there are as many as 25 heads. Li Cha's pupils shrank. This is not comparable to those common arms in the resource point. Although Mummy is also an Elite 3 star, but the level is behind the opponent, and the number is also one less team. If you rush hard, I'm afraid it will be a little difficult. But he wasn't happy to just retreat. I took a look at the attributes of the mummy, the body of death, the corpse bandage, the torn claws, the desertification. Mummy's own skills don't have much advantage over desert wolves, and the other party is too flexible. Only the desertification he gave was different. Immune to 99% physical damage, this skill allows the mummy to occupy an absolute strong position from a weak position. And after the desertification, it is easier for the enemy to infect the plague. When I just fought against the gnoll, this combination played a very good effect. Li Cha glanced at it. At this time, all the mummy's desertification skills had been restored. Desertification is a bug, but if it's hard, the desert wolf is too flexible and may not be able to make good progress. Is there any way to restrict the movements of the desert wolves? No, there is no need to completely restrict the opponent's movements, they just need to slow down. The plague of the mummy can reduce the opponent's attributes by 20%, which can be done completely. So what is the way to infect the desert wolf with the plague before the battle? Looking at the posture of the desert wolf resting on the sand, Li Cha suddenly had a sultry idea in his mind. Turning to look at the mummy closest to him. You immediately use sandification to blend into the desert. There was a faint light of yellow sand on the named mummy, and then the whole person immediately turned into a fuzzy pictogram composed of countless sand and gravel, and the bandages also became dark yellow. Under Li Cha's gaze, Shasha the ground began to sag, and the mummy's body after the sandification melted into the yellow sand little by little. In the end, the whole person disappeared without a trace, leaving only inconspicuous traces on the ground. Ha ha ha, it's really possible. Li Cha is in a good mood. He glanced at the desert wolf who was still lying under the shuttle tree. The plan went through. In the afternoon, the hot weather made the desert wolves very lazy and did not rush to hunt. After dark, it is time for them to attack. Lying in a daze, the group of desert wolves suddenly felt a rustling sound from the ground. There seems to be something in the ground. However, most of them raised their eyelids without paying much attention and continued to lie down. Only 3 or 2 stood up slightly, lowered their heads and sniffed with their wet noses. However, everything underground was blocked by the yellow sand, so I couldn't smell anything. The movement continued for a while, and these desert wolves also lost their vigilance and lay back lazily on the ground again. Brush at this moment, the ground suddenly shook, and countless yellow sands rose up. The more than 10 desert wolves lying on the ground only felt a pain in their abdomen, and their physical strength declined rapidly. Pooh! The blood splattered on the sand, and the ground was full of blood. After the sand absorbed the blood, it condensed into a ball. Roar! A roar of extreme pain came out of the desert wolf's throat. It bounced off the ground like a spring. Of the 25 desert wolves, 12 showed signs of torn claws on their abdomens, and only 2 ran fast and escaped the catastrophe. Only then did the desert wolves see exactly what attacked them. The mummy's gesture of climbing up from the ground made the desert wolves go crazy. Immediately launched a vicious attack on the mummy that got up from the ground. Those who were hit hard didn't flinch. But what surprised them was that the sharp claws that could tear apart the bison actually penetrated directly when they hit these undead beings. Shasha-like piercing through the sand. The ferocious attack of the 25 desert wolves at the same time did no harm to the mummy. On the contrary, as long as it is a desert wolf that penetrates their bodies, after a few breaths, the body turns blue. The curse of the mummy can reduce the enemy's all attributes by 20%. The aura of the desert wolf suddenly declined. If it is a normal mummy, even if it can kill these desert wolves, it will suffer heavy losses. But unfortunately, their enemies are mummies who have been gifted with sandification ability by Richard. A mummy after desertification is an existence that cannot be killed. No matter how the desert wolf bites, the mummy's body can always recover quickly. It is like splitting quicksand with a knife, but there is no trace when the knife is drawn. Instead, after the mummy got up from the ground, facing a group of cursed enemies, she started the frenzied killing mode. I don't know fear, I don't know pain, I only know how to attack. Swapping wounds for wounds, while swiping sharp claws, can always achieve victory. After the mummy came out of the yellow sand, 3 or 4 surrounded one to attack. A desert wolf can be killed in a few turns. Although the desert wolf fought back frantically, it was helpless in the face of a group of invincible enemies. The battle ended before the mummy's desertification ability ended. The last desert wolf was drowned by more than a dozen mummies, almost all of it was scarred, and blood was gurgling out. Ding, the army you led slaughtered a group of desert wolves and won a mini-battle. You gained 50 experience points. Level 2, 50/1000, each of the elite level arms provides 2 points of experience, and UU reading www.uuganshu.com has a good harvest. However, the experience from level 2 to level 3 is 10 times more than before, and the progress of the upgrade has slowed down instantly. But what makes Richard happy is still behind. Ding, bandage mummy has been upgraded after a lot of battles. After the system prompt sounded, the breath of the 14 bandaged mummies suddenly increased, and the scars left before returned to normal. Even the sandification skills that I just used were refreshed directly. Li Cha is in a good mood. This wave of blood makes money. And the main gain is more than that. He looked at the corpse of a desert wolf lying on the ground. Aren't these calf-like desert wolves the best meat? This is a drool-worthy resource for the food-starved Dusk City. But the problem is that a corpse infected with the plague is a deadly thing. Li Cha thought for a while, then turned to look at the mummy beside him, with some anticipation in his eyes. Can you get rid of the plague from the wolf's body? The mummy in front of her was stunned, as if she had never done such an operation. After hesitating for a moment, he slowly stepped forward and placed his hand on the wound of the wolf's body. After a while, the dark blue curse on the skin seemed to come alive, and began to move in the direction where the mummy pressed the wound. After more than a dozen breaths, all the blue light disappeared, and I could clearly feel that the corpse of the wild wolf had returned to normal. Li Cha's eyes were full of surprises. Mummy is a treasure. Blood earned, blood earned. Richard is very satisfied with the mummy unit. When fighting, he is not afraid of pain and life and death, and his combat effectiveness is extremely strong. With the sandification technique, he can also do sneak attacks from the ground. What's more important is that there is no logistical burden, not even food consumption. Is there anything better than this? The cows eat grass and squeeze out milk. The mummies don't even need to eat grass, they are milked directly. In sharp contrast, there are 3 long-armed hard workers who have already cracked their lips at this time. Regardless of their level, these units don't even have the ability to survive in the desert. In the harsh living environment of the desert, in the future, we must give priority to the arms that do not require logistics. Li Cha confirmed the future development direction of the army in Dusk City in the future. Bring the desert wolf back to the territory. After dispelling the plague, the desert wolf has undoubtedly become a precious food. This is a life-saving straw for Dusk City, which has only a few days of rations. The long-armed hard worker cheered and hurriedly lifted the desert wolf. But the 3 long-armed hard workers were barely able to lift their heads, and the mummy had to participate in the big event of delivering the goods. Looking at this appearance, Li Cha estimates that a desert wolf weighs more than 200 pounds. Some of them are big, more than 300 catties. With such a big harvest, I feel more relaxed. When a wild wolf was placed at the gate of the Lord's mansion, it immediately caused a sensation among the residents. They crowded into a pile, stood on tiptoe, stretched their necks and looked in. Oh my God, what a big wolf! Hey, these beasts are probably elite. These are desert wolves, very ferocious. 10 ordinary people can only wait to die in the face of one. Lord, it's too strong. It's amazing. Karu, who had just been appointed as an administrative officer, pulled away from the crowd and squeezed into Richard's side. The old corpse felt a little younger when he saw the wild wolves all over the place. Respectfully hold your chest and salute. Good day, Lord. Li Cha nodded slightly. Later, people will divide these wild wolves, store their fur, and make some of them into jerky, and some of them as food for the residents. Karu immediately saluted excitedly. Thank you for your generosity, it is our lifetime honor to meet a great lord like you. Li Cha didn't care about the other party's gratitude. These people are the wealth of Dusk City. What is strange about feeding his lambs with grass, he is still waiting for the other side to produce milk. No need to be more polite, as the Lord of Dusk City, I should protect you. The bodies of 10 desert wolves have not been brought back. You send someone and 4 mummies to carry them back. Karu was surprised. Is there still? Yes, my lord. Li Cha nodded and continued to ask questions. How are the residents' statistics? Reporting to my lord, there are a total of 15 people with special skills, including 5 junior blacksmiths, 3 junior carpenters, 5 junior tailors, and 2 junior builders. Life occupations are divided into primary, intermediate, advanced, special, master, and extraordinary. The higher the level of items that can be produced. Although they are all junior talents, there are 15 out of 100 people, which is not bad. Li Cha looked at the residents next to him. Let 5 blacksmiths go to the blacksmith shop to work. I have already occupied an iron mine, and it will not be long before there will be a lot of output. 5 tailors have processed the wolf's fur, and see how to use it better. After making some arrangements, he pointed to the 3 long-armed hard workers who were somewhat restrained. I have already captured the 3 resource points you mentioned. At the same time, he conquered these long-armed hard workers in the quarry, 30 in total. 7 quarries, 10 iron ore mines, and 10 logging quarries have been installed. The remaining 3 here, let them deliver food and water to these resource points in the future. The territorial attributes of Dusk City are very special. Under his protection, the residents of Dusk City will not get lost in the desert, and their physical energy consumption will be reduced by 20%. The extra hard work from these 3 can be regarded as making the best use of it. Karu should be right away. As you wish. Soon, the residents who received the order began to get busy. Under the leadership of the 4 mummies, more than 30 strong residents went to carry the corpses of the wild wolves. In addition, 4 or 5 residents brought dry food and water with 3 long-armed hard workers and went to the resource point to send supplies. The residents who stayed in the territory began to get busy. A wolf weighing 200 to 300 jins is a lot of work to deal with. The residents moved the wolf to the front of the only water well in Dusk City, and then they took out a large pot from nowhere and started to boil the water. Li Cha stood aside and watched this scene silently. The lively scene is like a New Year's Eve when I was a child. Residents with smiles on their faces are particularly infectious. The more simple it is, the more impressive it is. His unfamiliarity with this world has quietly disappeared a lot. After looking around for a while, his eyes were drawn to the well. Water is the absolute lifeblood in the desert. The well built in Dusk City is very primitive. Dig deep pits on the ground, dig to the groundwater location, and then build stones around the pits to hold the soil from collapsing. After the groundwater seeps out, tie the barrel with a rope and hang it down to load the water. This well is placed in an ordinary residence house and used by a dozen or so people without the slightest problem. However, this is Dusk City, his territory. With only this well, what should we do in the future for urban development? Li Cha felt a little uneasy. While he was thinking about it, the grey-haired Karu stepped to his side. The old man wiped the sweat from his forehead, his thin body like a tree that lost its leaves in winter. But his old age couldn't counteract his high spirits. Lord, I just estimated that after removing the fur, bones, and internal organs, each wild wolf can leave about 150 units of meat, and 25 wild wolves can produce nearly 4,000 units in total. In a systematic way of calculation, a pound of food is 1 unit. And the internal organs and bones are also edible, and these foods alone can feed us for 3 days. The meat can be dried and stored, 4,000 units, enough for us to consume for 20 days. In this way, plus our original food, the current reserve is enough for us to consume for 25 days. It is easy to save a little for a month. Karu's tone was very excited, and the wrinkles on his face were relieved a lot. Li Cha nodded. The harvest this time out was indeed huge. 3 resource points, 30 long-armed hard workers, the level of the mummy has been raised to level 2, plus the huge amount of food obtained from hunting. It can be said to be a big profit. But at this time his mind was attracted by other things. He pointed to the well in front of him and asked in a deep voice. Is there a source of water around the territory? Karu shook his head. I didn't find it. It was because we found this well a few days ago that we decided to stay. After speaking, she looked a little hesitant. Lord, we may arrange some people to find water sources, or rebuild a well. The output of this well is not large. It is very tight for hundreds of people these days. If things go on like this, I'm afraid the well water will dry up. Li Cha raised his brows. Yu reading www.yuuganshu.com. Lack of water is a terrible thing in the desert. If you don't have anything to eat, you can go hunting, but if you don't have water to drink, you will die. I can't see anything now, but it will develop in the future. I'm afraid this small well that uses primitive methods to draw water will be overwhelmed. The excitement of hunting more than 20 wild wolves has dropped a lot. I'll find a way to do this. Go and see if anyone knows how to find a water source or dig a well. Yes, sir. After Karu left, Richard opened the forum directly. Search keywords, the territory lacks water. Hundreds of thousands of posts appeared in an instant. My territory is on a high mountain, and there is no water around. What should I do? I won't die of thirst, will I? Please help. How to solve the lack of fresh water on the island. Don't talk about distillation, the efficiency is too low, and the little water distilled out is not enough for the residents of my territory to drink around. There is a level 10 giant bear outside my territory. It has blocked me for a long time. I am dying of thirst. Who can give me some water to drink? Most of these posts are asking for help, and after sifting for a long time, Richard found a valuable one. I just picked up a 3-star treasure chest in the wild, but after he opened it, I only got 1 treasure fragment spring water fragment. 3 fragments can be combined into a 1-star resource treasure, spring water. What's the use of this motherfucker? I go out as a river. I'm sorry, I had known that it was sold and I could exchange some food. Damn. Just now another 200 refugees came to the territory, and they will run out of food tomorrow. 1-star resource treasure? Spring water? Li Cha's eyes lit up immediately. These sand sculpture players are indeed valuable.